So explain a little bit in layman's terms what the Child Privacy Act entails.
Well, what we put forth is titled, yes, the Child Victim Privacy Act. And victim is the key word and here, and child is one of the key words here. You know, we do a lot of important work in terms of criminal justice in the state of New York because it is important to get that right. And we always hear that we have to make sure that you're innocent until proven guilty. We do a tremendous amount to protect those who are accused of crimes and predators. But it seems that we're lacking specifically for the victims themselves, because once they are victimized, then they go through a whole process of the justice system, which seems they are victimized over and over again. And the example I'm going to talk about now is the young lady who was in the town of Monroe from my district, not 9-year-old beautiful young girl from a wonderful family, riding her bicycle, was abducted by a predator. Won't go into what happened, all that, because that's a part of the privacy that we want to make sure takes place is not given out to the public, because people, children, adults, they can be cruel, especially for a child. Anybody who is victimized, whether it's adult or a child, the victimization itself can last a lifetime. We don't want to perpetrate that over and over by the justice system to get justice after. What happened in this case is what happens a lot. And what the three things are that we'd like to do with this Victim Privacy Act, I think would help mitigate and deal with some of the good things we're trying to do to make sure justice really prevails. Number one, if it's a child, they're victimized, they're brutalized, like this young child was, we would not, and it would be mandated, release their name or any other information to the media, to the public at all, unless the parents or the guardian would choose to ask that to happen. It would have to be their choice if they want to get that information out to maybe help other victims. Secondly, when you're a child or even an adult and you go through this process and you have a prosecutor asking questions and questions over and over, especially if it relates to brutalization, above and beyond that, the defense attorney who asks the questions over and over, that's enough for an adult to have a bad impact for a long period of time. For a child, it can victimize them for life. What we would like to have is a child victims advocate, always appointed to a child, when they have to answer these very difficult questions, when they have to go through the trauma that they don't want to remember to begin with, that they don't want to talk about again over and over again. They don't want to go through that victimization again. And this is an example what happened in this last case and what happens over and over. So every child who was victimized the way this child was by a predator would have a appointed state child victims advocate to help work through this, help work through the testimony, help counsel them. And lastly, video camera, getting information on this child while they're giving testimony in court. That should not be released, because if you release that, you're really victimizing the child again over and over again. They're too young to have this out there. There's too many mean-spirited people who use this type of thing to hurt others again and again. So we think this is fair. We think this is something we need. And we appreciate people being innocent until proven guilty. But we also have to appreciate, above and beyond everything, protecting individuals who are victimized by crime in this state and across this nation, especially our children, who are the least able to deal with this victimization over and over again. So this is why myself and my colleague on the other side of the aisle, and we're glad it's a bipartisan piece of legislation. They're constituents of ours, and but by extension, we want to help all children across the state of New York.
Yeah, that leads me to, thank you. That was a perfect answer. That leads me to my question of, it may seem like a no-brainer, but why do you think this is supported on both sides of the aisle?
Well, I think a lot of people, if they don't have a child of their own, they have a niece, they have a nephew, they know children are our future. They've seen the criminal justice system. They've seen the impact of the terror that takes place with adults when they're victimized like this. To see it happen to a child over and over, crosses all boundaries. This is not a political thing. This is our gift for the future of this state, this nation, and our world, our children. And when we allow them to be victimized after they've already been victimized by a criminal, by the process itself, we know we can do better. It's not a Democratic thing. It's not a Republican thing. Myself and Assemblyman Santabarbara understand this. We may not agree on everything, but we do agree that you don't have to be a Democrat or a Republican or any political affiliation to want to protect your children in the best possible way, but keep justice in place. I think this still does that. It protects innocent until proven guilty, but also protects our children from victimization over and over again.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the two can coexist for sure. So before we go, can you dive a little into the missing persons kind of unit in the state police that you're also pushing for?
Yeah, we've been looking at this for a long time right now. We have Missing Persons Day. Mary Lyle is the leader of that. Unbelievable. Her lovely daughter's been missing for years right now. They come back, they commensurate. But those are never-ending difficulties for them. It's a lifelong of sorrow. It's not knowing what has happened to your child. These cases are still out there. And we'd like to have some specific units. We do have some cold case activity taking place, but we'd like to have a specific unit put in place by the state police, which deals with missing persons, missing children. And these people live in quiet isolation, 24/7, wake up every morning not knowing where their loved one is. They deserve the opportunity to have investigations ongoing to protect the best interest of their children. So Mary Lyle has been the lead in a whole variety of ways. I've worked with her on a whole bunch of pieces of legislation issues. She's a wonderful person, and she's been leading this fight for this. So we're requesting of the governor and our law enforcement individuals to do a tremendous job. We know they're limited in capacity right now. Maybe we can heighten the funding for them to provide a separate unit, cold case unit for missing persons and missing children. And we can get some individuals working on these cases, and maybe we can solve some. Many of them are local, but they go across the state of New York. So we'd love to support Mary Lyle in this. We'd love to get the governor and our colleagues to do the same. And it's the same question. These are the constituents we represent. Many of them are our children, and they deserve the right to have that quiet desperation limited as a family and get an understanding of some closure of what had happened to their child. And I think with more individuals working on this, separate case of its own, we'd have a good possibility to close some of these cases.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're seeing that more and more lately with the different technologies and DNA advancement that these cases don't have to remain cold. You just need somebody who's got the time and the passion.
It only takes one clue, one minuscule thing that you or I could never see, but with the DNA, they can see it. And so
Yeah.
technology has gotten to that point. Artificial intelligence can help us with this also. So we'd really like to see that cold case unit open just for those who are missing and have been abducted potentially.